Hello and welcome to Baseplate Reviews. This is just a quick update for April 2024 because we've got 7 new sets releasing, plus we've got 3 offers going on at the moment. So let's see whether any of those are stackable. And we may as well start off with the offers. So the first one we see is this flower trellis display, and that's available with purchases of 150 US dollars, 190 Canadian, or 135 British pounds. I don't think it's an amazing set by any means, but if we look at it a bit closer up, there is an interesting part here, which is this kind of trellis piece, great piece. I think that this could be used as like chain link fence or something like that. The other thing that's on here is there is an interesting piece apparently at the back. Maybe we can see it just here. And if we go to this picture just here, so you're able to hang this up or stick it to a wall, which I suppose is useful. It looks like a planter, something like that. Again, I don't think it's an amazing set, but if you're spending 150 US dollars anyway, then worth picking up either to build as is or as a parts pack. I think pretty nice, and it should be stackable with the other offers that are available at the moment. So the next offer is the Dungeons and Dragons Mimic Dice Box, and this is only available if you purchase the Dungeons and Dragons Red Dragon's Tail set. We take a look at this a bit closer up. I'm not familiar with the source material, but from what I can gather, this looks pretty authentic. It does come though in one of those horrible yellow boxes. I think that's a real pity, considering that the actual Dungeons and Dragons set is fairly expensive. We go to that. This is 360 US dollars, 470 Canadian, and 315 British pounds. Like I say, I'm not familiar with the source material, but this does look a nice set. And I think if you're a fan of the medieval stuff, the castle range, then it might be something which, even if you're not into Dungeons and Dragons, that you might want to pick up anyway. There's certainly a lot of greenery with it around the sides here, and these look like they're in unique colours. The tentacles, I presume they're tentacles, peeking out. It does look, though, again for such an expensive set, that we are looking at stickers here, and I think that not to do a pun, that is a real sticking point for some people. Um, I know people say, "Oh, well, it keeps the cost of the sets down," but I'd argue that Lego are now the biggest toy company in the world. They can afford to maybe do the prints and still charge the same prices and not make quite so much money per set. Controversial opinion, I know. This looks somewhat interesting. I don't think it looks quite as good as some of the medieval sets that we've recently had, but certainly some of these minifigs are absolutely fantastic. So, if you're going to be picking this up, you would qualify for obviously the uh, box, the dice box, and the flower trellis, but you wouldn't qualify for the other deal going on at the moment, which is actually this retro food truck. And this doesn't have a threshold in terms of an amount to purchase. You can only get it by getting one of the current modular buildings that are out at the moment. So that's the Natural History Museum, the Jazz Club, or the Boutique Hotel. I've done a review of this food truck, and I do think it is a really nice set. I've actually seen someone who's switched out the trellis here to make it the colours of the Italian flag for their kind of Italian themed city. That's the TheBrickinPanda. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel because I think he's done some really kind of unique stuff. And I mean, that's the buildings and stuff that he's done, but also I was interested in what he'd done with this particular set. Again, if you manage to pick up one of the modular buildings, that would automatically qualify you, I believe, for the flower trellis. So that's the 3 offers. If we go on to the sets, we've already had a quick look at the Dungeons and Dragons one. It's not one that I'm interested in. The next big one, though, I think for fans of Batman the animated series, this is presumably a kind of must-have. So it goes for 300 US dollars, 390 Canadian, and 260 British pounds. What I would say is that this is another one of these great big display sets. So I'm sure there's some people that would have wanted this to be, for that amount of money, some kind of play set, higher end type thing. But there's some really clever builds in here. If we look, that kind of mini Batmobile down there, and I know that there's so many references to the TV show and particularly the intro to it. Again, it's not something that I ever watched. I really do like Batman, um, particularly the Christopher Nolan films, but I do like the style of the animated series. I don't know that again for the price point that this is, 4 minifigs seems a bit mean. Also, once this is built, it's kind of built and that's it. I can't imagine people are going to be taking this apart or anything like that. So it's a tricky one for me to say, oh yeah, I would go after that. I don't have any of the kind of poster type sets, those kind of the art display sets. But again, I think this is very specific to the fan base of Batman the animated series. In this picture, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Again, it's not something for me, but if you're into it, I'm sure the people who are going to buy it straight away. I don't know that this will be on shelves for a huge amount of time. I think that once the people who've bought it, who want it, buy it, it's going to go. That it's not going to be something which is going to sell for the next 2 3 years. Next set that we've got is actually and a strange one because I'd have thought it would come out at the same time as some of the other Technic cars, but it's the Lamborghini Huracan Technica Orange. This I don't again not super familiar with the actual car itself, but we can see that on the back of the box here. And this does look like a pretty good representation of it for just 50 US dollars. That's 65 Canadian and 47 British pounds. So it seems quite high price in Europe. That 50 US dollars shouldn't be coming out at 47 pounds. And we're going to see that with some of the other sets at the moment as well. So it looks like we've got the standard kind of Technic elements, moving engine parts when you roll the wheels and stuff like that. So, all good stuff. I can't tell whether that's a print on the uh, back of there for the Lamborghini or whether that's a sticker. But there's definitely stickers there, so I assume that's probably a sticker as well. But a nice set, and if you're into Lamborghinis and you're into Technic, then actually I think this is certainly North America seems to be priced pretty nicely. Um, then we go on to the construction figures. These are the Spider-Man ones. So we've got the Iron Spider-Man construction figure for 30 US dollars, and this goes for 40 Canadian and 30 British pounds. Again, US dollars are not worth the same as British pounds, they're worth less. So this should be less in pounds. This should be less in Europe. That seems a really high price in Europe, seems a pretty reasonable price in North America. Again, not something that I'm massively interested in, but if you are of these buildable figures, this one actually looks kind of cool. Maybe the kind of gold claws, legs, whatever you want to call them, look a bit thin in comparison to the rest of the build here. I like the posability of them, but yeah, definitely look a little bit spindly in comparison to the main figure. Maybe doesn't look so bad in the lifestyle photo there. Then we've got another Spider-Man buildable figure, which is the Green Goblin construction figure, and that's at 35 US dollars, 45 Canadian, and 32 British pounds. So this is very slightly cheaper in British pounds, but still at far too high a price in relation to US dollars. I've actually seen it a bit the other way with some other sets, so I'm not quite sure what's happening here. But this is quite a few more pieces than the Iron Spider-Man set, so 471 pieces. That was 303, and it's only $5 more. I assume that's because a lot of these are small pieces. We can kind of see some tile pieces there on the legs. Not my type of thing again, but I actually think that's a pretty good representation of the Green Goblin. Got his really kind of fierce look there with his face, and the board that he's going on is pretty cool too. You can see how he clips on with some Technic pieces just there, Technic pins, And yeah, that's I think that's a pretty good set for a buildable one. Finally, we've got a couple of space-based sets. So one of them is a Lego City set, which is the Space Science Lab, and this goes for 35 US dollars, 45 Canadian, and again 35 British pounds. So really not getting a good deal over there in Europe. That comes with some of those interesting dome pieces that we saw with the botanical gardens last year. I don't know if these are exactly the same color. They look dark there, whereas they look completely clear here. So interesting to see exactly what they'll come out like. I don't suppose they're going for super amounts of realism, especially as we seem to have this kind of alien figure as well. So it looks like good fun stuff. Getting those cool dome pieces in clear, and four of them as well. So it's fully enclosed, which is really nice. I'm sure a lot of people will pick this up once when it's on offer, just to get those, just so they can do some mocks and mods, stuff like that. You can also see that it does show how it's modular with the set 60434. There it shows it on the back of the box, which I believe is the space station or something like that. We'll have a check of the actual name in a second. 60434. That's the space base and rocket launch pad. So, I mean, that's an expensive one, 135 US dollars. So, nice to have a little add on to that at $35. And I think that this is, a good play set in and of itself. 560 pieces for $35 as well. Looks very good on a piece part to price ratio. And finally, we've got a strange one, but it's a Friends space set, which is a space research rover, and that's 50 US dollars, 65 Canadian, and 45 British pounds. This certainly comes with some really interesting pieces. I mean, the colours and some of the pieces remind me a bit of Fabuland here, which I know that was Animal Crossing's what's really reminded everyone of Fabuland recently. But we've got some really bold colours here. Some of these transparent pieces in the purple seem pretty cool. Let's take a closer look. Also, those spacesuits for the Friends mini dolls are pretty ace. Again, got some alien kind of figures here. Alien plant life, aliens living on alien plants. I'm not sure. Uh, it's definitely an out there set. Not quite sure what you're putting it alongside, but it's pretty unique. And actually, I think with those huge kind of elements, the wheels, the pieces there, this doesn't seem too overpriced at 50 US dollars. So, pretty interesting one. It's does this clip on with any other pieces in the Friends range? No, we haven't got the same kind of modularity that the City set had. But I think, seven somewhat interesting sets releasing um, today on 1st of April. None of them are anything that I'm particularly into. I would like to pick up another retro food truck, and I don't have the Jazz Club or the Boutique Hotel modular buildings, but they aren't something which are currently kind of that I'm budgeting for. I'm in the middle of building the bookshop, but those two aren't something that I'm super into. I don't get every um, modular building. The other one, if I was going to spend 190 Canadian dollars, 'cause that's what I shop in, then I would be more than happy to pick up this flower trellis display. I don't think that I've got anything that I want to pick up at that price at the moment. You can pick this up by spending money on pick a brick pieces, but looked at the terms and conditions just here, and that has to be on the best sellers. So if you pick up standard pick a brick pieces, that wouldn't qualify you. I hope that's been somewhat useful to you. Just a quick run through of what's available on lego.com today. Some of these are only available for insiders until the 4th of April, and then they become available to the general public. But I'd assume all of you listening are signed up to the insiders program, so you can get sets early, so you can get points when you purchase Lego sets. Let me know if you're picking up any of these today or in the next week or so, or whether you're really now looking forward to the kind of May 4th Star Wars sets that normally release and the deals that are available then. As always, be good.